gift to all of you is my channel May Round Joy. Today, I'm going to explain Blue Lock Season 3.
We get a quick flashback to Chris Prince and Chigiri talking. Chris tells Chigiri that to connect his speed to the goal, he should try to create a golden zone. It is said that the famous star player Del Piero had one as well. He had a zone where he could mass-produce goals from. Chigiri quickly connects a golden zone to Baru and Zantetsu and says that they probably had one as well. And after that, we get back into the game and learn that Chigiri's golden zone is 19 meters from the goal and then 44 degrees to the left. Chigiri stops the ball before he goes all into a cut in which Isagi and Messner are unable to react to. Just as Chigiri is 4 meters away from his golden zone, Kunigami comes in his way. However, even the muscle head is nothing to Chigiri, who gets behind him in an instant and then gets into his golden zone. He aims at the top corner of the goal, and the shot from Chigiri is so outstanding that Gagamaru has no way of saving it, which means that Chigiri scores and gives Manshin City a 1-goal lead. After that, we can see how Chigiri's mom and sister are eagerly watching and game and get super excited as Chigiri scores, which is quite wholesome. However, it's not only them that are mind blown by Chigiri's goal, as Isagi is looking at Chigiri amazed. He says that all of Chigiri's qualities have bumped up by a huge margin. He is now able to use his own speed as bait and then manages to slash throw players with his lightning quick cut-in. Not to mention Chigiri's amazing goal that he managed to make. Isagi tells Chigiri that he's changed, but then Chigiri tells him that it's the golden formula. They managed to break down the equation that has worked so far, and after that, they picked out which factors stood out and then reconstructed the most ideal combination for him. If that wasn't enough, he also had to train endlessly to create a specialized body that helped him to evolve. Chigiri says that in this neo-egoist league, he's going to be a striker who is able to rise to the top of the blue lock. He looks behind and says to both Isagi and Kunigami to not be too slow or they will be left behind, which is just so cool. After that, Kaiser comes and says that Chigiri is good, fast, strong, and above all beautiful, which I definitely can't argue with. Kaiser gets closer to Isagi, and this time I mean closer like bro was legit breathing in his ear. After that, they go to start the game again, and Kaiser asks Isagi if he has a plan or if he's already stuck, kind of mocking him, but that's what Kaiser usually does. And after that, to everyone's surprise, Kaiser passes Isagi, telling him that he can do whatever he wants with it, with the ball. Isagi is looking more fearful than ever, as he says that he will make Kaiser regret that pass. Right off the bat, Ryo goes to guard Isagi, telling him that he's already splitting up with his teammates. However, this time Isagi has someone to fight with, and it's of course our favorite Shark Boy, who tells Isagi that he's decided that he will ally himself with Isagi. Corona gets behind Ryo, and Isagi says that Corona is a perfect teammate for him, as he allows Isagi to look ahead and see the entire field, by Corona's ability to instantly sense a position that is both unfavorable to the enemy and advantageous to him, comparing Corona to an orbit which is always following him around. And then we get this incredible panel which looks so stunning with multiple Coronas, which are surrounding Isagi, and it also creates Isagi's and Corona's planet hotline attack. As Corona and Isagi are steadily moving up on the field, Isagi says that their key to breaking through the right side is Kunigami. Due to his goal in the previous game, the opposing team is wary of the passes directed to him and needs at least one or more players to guard him. Isagi wants to move up to the space where Kunigami wants to move and then catch it from behind. So Isagi passes back the ball to Corona to then receive it at the perfect position to finish it in front of the goal, except he forgot one little small detail, and that's Kaiser, who comes in his way and steals the ball, asking Isagi if this is all he's got. However, the chain follows as Chigiri now comes in Kaiser's way and shoots away the ball. This just makes Kaiser more excited, and I just need to tell him to back off because Chigiri is mine, nothing more to it. Anyway, the ball goes to Ryo and he traps it marvelously, and with that, both Agi and Nagi start to move up on the field. The ball is headed to Nagi, and 2 players from Bastard Munchin tries to sandwich him. However, Nagi is able to shove them away with his core power, which definitely surprised me. Then he does some kind of backward roulette into some dribbling moves, which gets him away from the Bastard Munchin players. Nagi's play shocks Isagi, as he says that this isn't the Nagi he used to know, and that Nagi never used to create plays on his own. However, we once again get interrupted when it is as exciting as we get a flashback to 20 days earlier, where Chris asks Nagi what kind of football the ideal Nagi desires. Nagi just straight up tells him that he wants to beat Isagi, saying that they are rivals. Chris tries to get into more details and asks Nagi how he plans on defeating Isagi, but Nagi has no idea, saying that he hasn't really thought that it. After that, Chris asks Nagi what he thinks about when he's about to score a goal. However, as we know Nagi doesn't really think that much, like at all. So they go to gather data instead. Chris says that Nagi's results are quite intriguing and that what's necessary for his greatest strength is to relax his body instantaneously so that Nagi can use his whole body to trap the ball. Chris even says that when it comes to relaxing his body, he's better than Chris. However, it isn't only praise that Nagi is getting, as Chris tells him that when it comes to creativeness, he's basically pointless, saying that Nagi depends on others too much and that his playstyle is determined by the level of his partners. To fix that, Chris suggests that Nagi should try to play an active playstyle, something that starts from Nagi's trapping abilities. However, all of this talking fries Nagi's brain, so Agi comes in to help. Agi suggests that Nagi should learn a trap that brings things back to zero, which works well in any situation and can basically just reset the game. After that, we finally get back into the game. As Nagi is thinking about what to do, he wonders if Isagi and Ryo think this much all the time, calling it tiring. Nagi sees Agi up in the box and passes him. Agi makes a massive jump into the sky and is in the perfect position to score, but that's when he instead passes the ball down to Nagi again. Nagi legit traps the ball with his foot to then juggle to the ball and get it up in the air, and then just shoots an awesome shot to the goal. However, Yukimiya comes in Nagi's way and covers the goal with his face. No wonder that he has trouble seeing. Anyway, Yukimiya's save was a life-saving save for Bastard Munchin, because I don't know if they would be able to recover from 2 goals. Even so, Manshine City still walked away with a corner kick. After that, Agi goes up to Nagi to give him his diagnosis. He gives Nagi's attack an 8 out of 100, which is a really surprising score. However, Agi tells Nagi that it was because his pass was too rough, and that if it were anyone else, they wouldn't have been able to reach it. Even so, Agi compliments Nagi's finishing idea and calls it interesting. While they are talking, Isagi is watching from afar. He's stunned to see the two of them testing stuff out in the middle of such an important match, and even more surprised that Agi is able to teach Nagi football. Then it snaps for Isagi as he thinks back, saying that Nagi has only moved according to his or Ryo's commands, and that he's a newbie when it comes to football. Because of this, Nagi is sitting on a pile of infinite potential. Just then, Ryo comes by. He says that it was first him, then Isagi, that influenced him with football, and now it's Agi and Chris. And if their guidance proves to be successful, he may reach more and more levels, and then it will be the birth of the actual greatest genius in the world. As Ryo is walking away, he tells Isagi to not get left behind, and says that Nagi is the type of guy who can discard anything to chase what he wants. And then it was time for the corner kick. Isagi thinks that Chigiri will probably try to shoot a precise curve into the box, and said that Chigiri's most likely target will be Agi because of his height. Chigiri shoots it, but it isn't a precise curve as Isagi thought, but instead a low trajectory. Isagi tries to get ahead of Agi, but he's no match. Isagi thinks that he can at least limit his shooting course, however Agi isn't there to shot, but instead to do a backheel pass to Nagi, who's been eagerly waiting in the box. He's just about to jump and maybe do the first cycling kick of the series, however that's when Kaiser comes in his way and almost catapults the ball away. As Kaiser falls to the ground, Agi says that it's nice to see him again, and that he finally has a chance to analyze him. Kaiser just coldly tells him to make sure to babysit properly, and calls him the mad footballer. And I'm really interested in learning more about Kaiser's and Agi's connection to each other, as it seems that they kind of know of each other, and has probably played before. After that, we get back to the game where it's starting to look like a race to the ball, and the one who wins the race and the one who should probably change sport to formula is Ness. Ness says that it's the magic hour as he completely destroys a player from Manshine City. As Isagi is following both Ness and Kaiser, he says that even if he tries to steal Ness's pass from Kaiser, he will just end up getting a bad shot out of it. So this time to score a goal, he has to change his train of thought. He decides to follow Kaiser from behind and study his thought patterns from his viewpoints. He analyzes as Kaiser and Ness exchange passes with each other and says Kaiser will probably try to find a less marked place as they are getting closer to the goal. However, that is the exact opposite of what Kaiser does as he starts to sprint to the Manshine City defenders. As Isagi is able to get a closer look at Kaiser, he notices something. He sees that Kaiser isn't looking at the ball at all. He's twisting his neck to see everything, and instead of the ball, his field of view is what he's doing. As this is going down, Ness has just gotten off a pass to Kaiser, and when I say that almost the entirety of Manshine City goes to block Kaiser, I mean it. However, even though 5 players are there to block him, he still manages to find a little place where he could send the ball in. And that's exactly what he does, and Kaiser's outstanding shot goes into making it even, and also showcasing the real power of Kaiser's impact. Everyone is surprised by Kaiser's immense powers. He even got Chris Prince to shake a bit. After that, we jump right into Isagi's thoughts as he says that even if he wanted to learn Kaiser's impact, he can't as it's unique to him. What he instead should try to pay attention to was how Kaiser found that shot course faster than anyone, and most importantly, how he arrived there faster than anyone. However, Isagi isn't all too clueless, and knows that the reason is undoubtedly the way he uses his eyes. As we go straight into a science lesson by Mr. Yoichi, he says that humans have two types of vision. The first one is called central vision, and it directly perceives something in a direction. The second one is called peripheral vision, and it's like low-resolution images that are outside the central vision. And when it comes to football, in order to perceive the entire field, every player, and the ball while in motion, it's important to be able to absorb as much information as possible from your peripheral vision. Because if you focus too much on the ball with your central vision, you lose information on the scene around you. So when it comes to your surroundings, your decision-making speed is delayed. Even so, knowing that when one has to dribble and pass while running at full speed, they'll end up focusing too much and narrow on their field of vision. And therefore, it's likely that Kaiser is constantly inputting new information that he gets from his peripheral vision. By constantly renewing information about both friends and foes, he knows who is doing what and where. And by then, having that overwhelming amount of information, he's able to arrive at the best point that no one else could understand. And when you compare it to the world which Isagi sees, it's like Kaiser's world is from a higher dimension. If the state of the field is a 2D image, then the image of a play that one player can visualize would be something 3D. And when each player moves around, using only their own images, it can cause misses and tears at the seams, and having a vision yet above that, which can visualize every image and destroy them. Isagi then states that you could say that Kaiser's brain and eyes are a 4-dimensional vision, a godlike vision that stands above that of everyone else, which we know as metavision. By taking information from a lower dimension like Isagi has been doing, he could never win against Kaiser metavision. Spatial awareness, perception, and football IQ. Only by overlapping all of this is Kaiser able to attain and discern information from his 4D vision. And by then, connecting that to the Kaiser impact at the end, he's able to become an exceptional striker that can create goals. Meta vision combined with Kaiser impact is Kaiser's golden rule. Isagi now understands it perfectly, but how can he use it to fight? Since he doesn't have Kaiser impact, the weapon he could use instead is a direct shot. But what about meta vision? Isagi has just now come across it, but he's sure that he's probably done it before. The first goal he scored in Blue Lock, and all those situations where he could smell the scent of the goal. One of those moments where he was alone and was able to catch the distortion between Rin and Sei. All of those plays were only possible because of his own eyes and brain transcending everyone else's on the field. But does this mean that Kaiser keeps it up for the whole 90 minutes? No, that can't be right. But if it were, then it would be like becoming a god. Then suddenly, Isagi understands it perfectly, that if he combines metavision and direct shot and creates a new formula, he would still need a bit more than that. But if he was able to actually implement this, then he would realistically be able to beat Kaiser. But why stop at Kaiser? Because with this image, he could possibly defeat all of them. After that, we finally get out of Isagi's mind and back to the field, where Kaiser approaches Isagi and asks if it were fun stalking him. He asks Isagi if he finally understands that his plays have become filled with despair and that they have left him speechless. Isagi stays quiet for a while before he says no, and thanks Kaiser as he's finally able to see hope in crushing him, which is straight up one of the coldest things he could have said. And with that, the game restarts and it's finally time for Isagi to try out his new metavision. This time, instead of just focusing on one particular player, he will now use his peripheral vision to see the entire field and gain more and more information on what's happening, to then finalize it in his head. Isagi is able to see that his teammates are more wary of Nagi's movements now. He also sees that Chigiri is rushing to the side to await his next pass. Even so, Isagi isn't able to see a breach but still feels this sensation as a rush. Isagi, alongside his new metavision, is able to gather more information than he's ever been able to do before. It's as if there's a new brain circuit upon him. After that, Isagi takes in everything that is happening on the field and is able to foresee Manshine City's next move, which is to pass to Nagi. However, Isagi was able to decode this attack and was able to reach the pass in time. Everyone is stunned, and even Agi says that Isagi is different from before, and with the ball at his feet, he starts his attack. Hiroi is on the bench watching the situation break down and says that it looks like Isagi is having so much fun, kind of seeming jealous. Isagi teams up with Corona once again and starts their comeback. Isagi is able to see the best path for them to break through. Corona and Isagi manage to break through Rio like it is nothing, and Isagi isn't even 100% there as he's in his metavision. He says that Kaiser is still behind him and that now is their time to attack. As Corona and Isagi break the ankles of another Manshine City player, Isagi was that he needs to minimize the time it takes for him to trap the ball, and instead use that time to look at his surroundings and to constantly sense more of what's happening on the field. Isagi gathers information on a level that he never could have imagined, and even says that his brain won't stop working and that he's amazing now. Corona and Isagi are still continuing their vicious ankle breaking and demolishing the Manshine City players. He gets closer to Kunigami and is in the perfect position to pass to him, which would probably lead to a goal. However, Isagi instead uses him as bait and gets into a shooting stance, but as he's about to shoot, Corona comes and takes the ball of Isagi's foot, which lets Isagi get to an even better angle to score from. Corona runs to the ball and even states that he's having trouble keeping up with the pace which Isagi is moving in, but he still manages to reach this pass and pass it forward. Isagi sees the ball coming and says that it's the perfect position to shoot. He goes into his direct shot position and is about to score a wonder goal, but from out of nowhere, Kaiser comes and cuts off some of Isagi's shooting angle. This doesn't stop Isagi, who still shots the ball right under Kaiser's balls. It seems like the ball is about to go in, but just then someone else appears, and no, it isn't someone from Manshine City, because it's once again his own teammate, but this time it's Kunigami who comes and steals away the goal, making a wonder goal and giving Isagi an assist on Bastard Munchin's second goal. Isagi is furious, saying that he doesn't need some fucking assist and tells Kunigami to go to hell. And when he's at his lowest, Kaiser comes to him, saying that he shouldn't have shot that shot, saying that he definitely wasn't in a good position and that Isagi must love giving out assists. Kaiser words open up a new and honestly scary Isagi, who tells Kaiser that he will fucking kill him, even if it's the last thing he does. But Kaiser just asks him if this is his new way of saying that he loves him. However, someone that is impressed is the man himself, Noel Noah, who compliments Isagi and says to not let this break him because this new weapon he's got will be the ticket to Isagi becoming the best in the world, and that it might even lead him to Noah. Even after Isagi still isn't done with his rant, as he says that his scoring formula was perfect and without flaws. However, Kaiser was able to foresee the same thing and decided to interfere with the plan, which then lead to Kunigami stealing his goal. Isagi is sure that Meta Vision is an outstanding weapon, but just as he learned it from Kaiser, other players can probably acquire it if they have great football knowledge and awareness. Not to mention that if one is a midfielder or a player maker, they'd probably scan the field the same way he did and then find the best pass routes and shot courses. And then he thinks back to the U20 game, where he says that Sei most likely already used Metavision against the Blue Lock 11. This is a new height for Isagi, as it might just mean that he's broken into the next level. However, suddenly, his body starts to wear off and he almost falls to the ground, saying that using Metavision drains away lots of his physical and mental stamina. Even so, Isagi knows that he's gotta surpass Kaiser, and if he doesn't crush him, then he can't show the world his value as a striker. After that, we see Ryo, who takes a look over at Isagi and says that Isagi is more and more becoming like a monster. After that, Ryo thinks back to the time Nagi chose to go with Isagi instead of him. Ryo says that he never wants to be the guy who doesn't get chosen and wants to avoid experiencing that feeling ever again. Ryo says that it wasn't Nagi's fault and that it was him that needed to change. He ends it by saying that he needs to show the world that Ryo can fight by himself. But just then, Nagi comes forward telling Ryo that he wants to beat Isagi. He tells Ryo that right now, he doesn't have a chance of beating Isagi, and asks Ryo for advice before telling him that soccer isn't fun anymore. Ryo tells Nagi that he doesn't care anymore, and that this is the path that Nagi himself chooses. But after that, Nagi tells Ryo that playing alongside each other was fun. And when Ryo is just about to walk away, Nagi ends it by asking for Ryo's help. Ryo stops himself and asks Nagi if he ever thinks about others' feelings. He tells Nagi that he had to crawl up without being chosen many times over, and when Ryo finally decided to keep fighting and get stronger on his own. That's when Nagi wants to come back. Ryo tells Nagi to stop talking to him, as if he can manipulate his feelings with Nagi's ever-changing feelings. But Nagi tells Ryo that he has gotten it all wrong. He tells Ryo that ever since the day Ryo invited him to play football with him, Nagi has always been by his side, and that Nagi always kept making the best choices to make their dream come true. He tells Ryo that the two of them couldn't beat Isagi before, but now it's a different story, as both of them have gotten stronger. Ryo asks Nagi what his ego is, and Nagi tells him that it's his dream. After that, Ryo tells Nagi that he is a real pain before telling him to play soccer together. And with that, the game is back on. Agi has the ball and looks over at Isagi, before saying that Isagi's movements have clearly leveled up from before, and that in this game, he is slowly becoming the eye of the storm. Agi also says that he wants Nagi to awaken and to take the next step, but he doesn't get to say much more as Kunigami goes to block him. Agi tries to move Kunigami's center point to get behind him, but it doesn't work that easily. Isagi takes a look at the field and says that right now is a bad idea to move as Chigiri, Ryo, and Kaiser are all standing by, and that if he included himself, it would go into a 3v3 situation. But just then, Isagi remembers the time between Noah and Lavinio, when Lavinio used Isagi as a tool to get behind Noah. Chigiri screams to Agi to pass him, but Isagi tells him that he moved too soon. As Isagi is going to steal the ball, he meets with Kaiser, who also had the same idea as Isagi. Quick moment of silence for Agi, who just fell to the ground. Anyway, Isagi now knows that he made the correct decision, and that his vision is in the same dimension as Kaiser. The loose ball falls to Ryo, and Kaiser orders Ness to go and steal it. With Ness coming up behind Ryo, he is forced to pass to Nagi. Ryo copies Itoshi Sa's pass to make a 1-2 with Nagi, who uses his back heel to get the ball over to Ryo. Agi goes over to Ryo and asks what he is doing. He tells Ryo that he isn't supposed to use Nagi in Ryo's own ideas, because if he does that, then Nagi's creativity won't flourish, but Ryo just tells him to shut up. Ryo is set on devoting his newly evolved chameleon style to help Nagi score. Ryo also thinks it can be his gateway to enter his flow state, and with Nagi and Ryo once again teaming up, they are looking more dangerous than ever before. Isagi knows that to beat Ryo and Nagi, he will have to use metavision to predict the best place for them to reach. Corona goes forward to stop Ryo, but is faced with some crazy hyperspeed scissors, which lets him pass. After that, Nagi and Ryo uses their 1-2 passes once again to break Bastard Munch's defense. In the middle of their attacks, Ryo takes a moment to think back. He thinks about Nagi, the guy who was unmotivated and who thought that everything was a drag, who now says that he has a dream. Ryo thinks back to when they split up. Ryo admits that he was frustrated and that he resented Nagi, but he still had resolved to move on by himself. Ryo ends it by thanking Nagi and says that if they are together, they can achieve anything. Ryo passes the ball to Nagi, who jumps up and makes a double trap with his chest and leg. After that, the ball goes to Ryo, who right off the bat passed it back to Nagi, who once again shows off his crazy football abilities. But behind Nagi waits for both Kaiser and Isagi, who read both Ryo's and Nagi's movements. But Nagi isn't faced as he passes the ball back to Ryo. Ryo has to decide if he wants to pass it behind Isagi or Kaiser, but in the end, he knows that there is only one way they can go, and that's behind Kaiser. Leaving Nagi with Isagi, Nagi traps the ball as it's going down, and he pretends to shoot, but Isagi was able to see through it with his meta vision. Isagi thinks that Nagi will do a 2-stage fake volley, so he tries to stop him from getting into his position, but when he does so, he realizes that Nagi wasn't going to do a 2-stage fake volley, but instead a regular fake volley. Kaiser goes to block Nagi, but ends up getting hit by the same move Nagi used on Isagi. Isagi says that he can still manage to reach Nagi, but when he goes in to take the ball, it doesn't end too well for him, as he gets hit by another one of Nagi's fake volleys. As the ball is up in the air, Nagi thanks Isagi and tells him that he is now the best player in the world. He jumps up and shoots the ball into the net, making one of the craziest goals ever. As Nagi hits the ground, he screams out of happiness. Ryo also runs to him and makes a high five with the genius. As Nagi is walking, he says that he finally won, and that he finally beat Isagi. After that, he says that winning sure feels good. After that, Isagi goes over to Ryo and Nagi and says that he finally understands what makes the two of them tick, and that a goal like that was born of things like the springtime of youth. However, there is no value in success if you can't reproduce it, as Isagi says that he will crush the two of them and that there won't be any more miracles for the two of them. However, the two of them gladly took up Isagi's challenge, and after that, it was time for something incredible, with Chris Prince joining the match. Niu gets up and looks happy. He asks Chris if he is going to help the team at its final moment and become a mentor for them on the pitch as he should. However, he couldn't be more wrong, as Chris only wants to score the final goal and become the hero of this match. Chris compliments Nagi's goal, but turns to Ryo as he asks him if he didn't want to become the best player in the world alone, and asks if he has already given up on that ideal. However, Ryo says that it doesn't matter anymore, and that his real dream is winning the World Cup. He's fine with Nagi becoming the world's #1 if it means that Ryo can be his right-hand man, and Blue Lock is just a stepping stone for the sake of his dream. Chris asks if that's his new ideal, but Ryo denies that and says that that's his ego. Suddenly, someone else joins their conversations. It's Noel Noah, who is getting up from his seat and is ready to join the fun. From afar, we have Isagi looking at the two masters as he says that with Noah and Chris, the field is bound to change, and Isagi has to sort out the situation so that he can take over this match. This is the first time since acquiring Metavision that Isagi was able to have all of his abilities evolve exponentially. but even then, it wasn't enough to beat Kaiser. Isagi's speed and overall body movement are slower than Kaiser's, and on top of that, Isagi doesn't have Kaiser's impact. Even if Isagi uses his direct shot, Kaiser will just show up and stop it with his meta vision. The final piece Isagi needs in order to beat Kaiser is to have at least one thing where he can overcome him. However, it's not only Isagi who is analyzing the field as we see Yukimiya in the distance. Yukimiya says that he hasn't accomplished anything, and that he has just run around like an idiot on the field. Even though his vision is fine, it is getting a little blurry. However, Yukimiya can't be worried about that right now. Because if this match ends like this, he won't get another chance. And with one goal left, both Yukimiya and Isagi are determined to be the ones to steal the last goal. Noah tells the team that he will ally himself with whoever plays the most logically, while Chris tells the Manshine to watch him become the hero. And with that, the game starts with Kaiser passing his guard dog. Isagi thinks about what Noah said, and knows that with these last 3 minutes, he's got to be as calm and precise as possible, and live up to Noah's expectations. Kaiser and Ness pass around for a bit, before Chris goes up to Kaiser, says that he has heard great things about him, and asks him to show him what he is made of. However, Kaiser doesn't fall for Chrissy's childish trick, and passes it back to Ness before Chris calls him a coward little boy, which makes Kaiser really angry as he demands Ness to pass him and challenges Chris. The duel is really close with both players playing at their peak, and not leaving even the smallest of gaps, which makes it impossible to interfere. Chris taunts Kaiser some more, which leads to him facing him right on, starting with a double-touch nutmeg before they go back to back. With that, Chris somehow got the upper hand and told Kaiser that he really was just a small fry. However, just then, Noah comes forward, and he will reach the ball first if it weren't for our favorite Ryo Mikage, who comes in and tackles the ball away. Isagi is stunned at how Ryo managed to react to all that, and says that Ryo is starting to attain his meta vision. Anyway, the second ball falls to Chigiri, who easily gets behind most of Bastard Munchin's defense. As he sees his zone, he says that it's game over, but unfortunately for him, Yukimiya comes and runs his fun. As he says that it's time to defang and declaw him, and with that, all of the strikers assemble in Bastard Munchin's goal area. Chigiri makes a fake shot to get behind Yukimiya, who couldn't keep up with Chigiri's tricks. But just as Chigiri is about to shoot, Kaiser comes from behind, ruins his balance and says that he was too slow. However, before Chigiri loses the ball, he makes sure not to waste it as he passes to Chris. Chris is in his zone, and he is going to need that if he wants to defeat Noah. Noah tells Chris that there is nowhere for him to shoot, but Chris just smiles. As he tells Noah that he has designed a weapon specifically made to break Noah, Chris chips the ball over both Noah and Kunigami. But that's not all, because they quickly realize that the ball is a knuckleball. Chris screams at his shot to go and says that he doesn't even know where it's going. Gagamaru is stunned. He has no idea where his shot will land, and says that there's no way that he can stop this incredible shot. However, just then, the goat himself, Isagi Yoichi, comes closer to Gagamaru. Gagamaru notices that Isagi isn't even looking at the ball, but before he can think any further, Isagi screams for him to go low while he takes high. And with their teamwork, they were able to block Chris's shot. Isagi's save shocks Chris to his core, but Isagi thinks that it was easy to read. Even though it's impossible to read the shot's trajectory, Isagi could still read which point was the most vulnerable, and if he could just defend that spot, they would be fine. It was a huge gamble, but it paid off in the end, and Isagi has now devoured the world's number 2 as he says that it's his turn. The ball goes up in the sky and Isagi screams for someone to take it, and who else would it be if it weren't our favorite shark boy, Corona? Isagi thinks that he can finally see it. Ever since Chris and Noah entered the game, the field has been a lot more chaotic, and even Kaiser wouldn't be able to fully understand the current situation yet. If Isagi can hit them with an all-out counter right now, with Corona's help, there's a big chance that he will be able to score. This is Isagi's golden opportunity, but just then someone comes and steals the ball. However, it's not anyone from Manshine City, but instead Yukimiya, who comes in and sweeps the ball away from Isagi. Isagi asks Yukimiya what he is thinking, but Yukimiya tells him to shut up, as he runs, saying that this game is his, and that he is running out of time. Yukimiya gets behind both Chigiri and Ryo with ease, but before we can continue with Yukimiya's carnage, we get a flashback. Yukimiya has finally gotten his glasses and asks the doctor how they look on him. The doctor assures him that they look great and that the treatment is going smoothly as well. He tells Yukimiya that his eyes haven't gotten better or worse and asks him to be patient. Yukimiya smiles and says that he has finally come to terms with his diagnosis, as he says the phrase, "God will never give us more than we can handle." And that's why Yukimiya believes that God wouldn't have given him this condition if he didn't believe that he would be able to overcome it. As he breaks through all of the no-names of Manshine City, he says that the golden opportunity finally came. When he has gotten through 6 of their players, he gets his chance to shoot, and he doesn't hesitate as he shoots an amazing gyro shot. The goalkeeper says that the spin is abnormal as it drops and fades away, and that he won't be able to reach it after that. But just then, someone else comes into the picture, and it's no small fry, as Chris comes and kicks the ball away and ends it by calling it pathetic. After Chris's incendiary display, we see Henri and Ego talking, with Henri calling Yukimiya's shot close and saying that if it had gone in, Yukimiya would have scored a super goal. However, Chris Prince isn't someone to underestimate. After that, Ego says that for Yukimiya to definitely score, he would have needed to juke the last 2 defenders and also win in a 1v1 duel against Chris himself. And by that time, the rest of the defense would have caught up, meaning that the chance of Yukimiya scoring was 0%. And if that wasn't enough, Ego says that he's glad that Chris blocked it, because if the shot had gone in, the after effects would have been disastrous in the long run, just like the last goal. Henri asks Ego if he's talking about Nagi's goal, and Ego says that it was a shitty fluke goal. Henri is stunned and says that Nagi's goal was amazing and that it's already blowing up on social media, with headlines like Nagi Seishiro is the best player in the world, and that goal is already the best goal of the century. Ego is surprised and says that all he felt from it was a sense of foreboding, and says that it's impossible for Nagi to ever replicate that goal again. Nagi's talent is off the charts, but even for someone like him, it went a little bit too well, and with attaining success above your talent level can have a dangerous after effect. He says that Yukimiya's result was to be expected, and the reason he failed was that he thinks too highly of himself. Henri asks him if that isn't a part of being a striker. However, confidence and delusion are 2 completely different things, and success won't come to people who blind themselves with deluded fantasies. After that, we are back in the game, and Isagi goes forward to Yukimiya and tells him to stop fucking around. If Yukimiya hadn't gotten in his way, he would have had a good chance of scoring. After that, Isagi sees Yukimiya's face and calls down. He even compliments Yukimiya's shot. And after that, he asks Yukimiya to team up with him. Isagi says that since they know about the gyro shot, they'll be on alert for it, and that's why, for this game, they will use the gyro shot as a decoy. While Yukimiya sends Isagi an assist, since the Manshine City hasn't seen them link up, it'll catch them off guard. And with Yukimiya assisting Isagi, their chances of being used in the next game will dramatically increase. However, Yukimiya tells Isagi to fuck off, and says that he made it very clear that he will be the hero of this match and that he will overcome this challenge all by himself. However, this really upsets Isagi, who starts screaming at him, and she tells Yukimiya to get over his own pride and that this is the most beneficial for both of them. But Yukimiya just asks Isagi if that's the same thing he told everyone before devouring their fantasies. In the end, all Isagi cares about is himself. And with that, Yukimiya finally understands that Isagi and Kaiser are a pair of self-centered shitheads, and if the world is only going to reward asses like them, then this world is just fucked up. After that, Isagi says that even in this situation, Yukimiya is filled with nothing but childish thoughts. And if that's the case, then Isagi wouldn't want to live in a world with a deluded narcissist asshole like yourself. As he ends it by telling Yukimiya to watch his precious fantasy sink straight to hell. The game restarts with a throw-in from Bastard Munchin. However, Isagi still can't get Yukimiya out of his mind, as he wonders why he and Yukimiya can't just understand each other. Isagi is pissed that Yukimiya outright rejected his offer, even though it benefited the 2 of them. However, Isagi knows there's no way that Yukimiya will fulfill his wish, as he is so self-centered and thinks that he is the protagonist. But just then, something clicks for Isagi as he thinks back to Nagi calling himself the protagonist. The belief that you're the protagonist and the drive to accomplish something are all forms of egoism. However, just as it's happening, Yukimiya once again takes the ball from Ness, but Ryo quickly comes to stop him, which he does with ease as he takes the ball away from Yukimiya. Isagi says that while he tried to understand others from his own point of view, in doing so, he forgot to look at things from their point of view. And then he finally understood that everyone is their own protagonist, and with that, he looked back and said that it was obvious that he and Yukimiya couldn't see eye to eye, because their individual feelings of egocentrism override one another, and Isagi was unconsciously making him a side character in his story. And if the 2 of them continue to think of themselves as the protagonist, they will never be able to score. However, that stops now, as he has found his last piece while he will grasp while using metavision. After that, we see Ryo comfortably demolish Bastard Munchin's defense as he says that his body has become super sharp. His thoughts and movements are going at a super high speed, and Ryo feels invincible. With this new power, he can even end this game. Chris, AGI, and Chigiri is all headed to the goal. However, all of them are his sacrificial pawns for his treasure to shine. Grim comes in an attempt to stop Ryo, but Ryo knows that he is so close to his destination that he powers through a bit more. But just as he is about to pass to Nagi, Isagi comes from his side and kicks away the ball. The ball goes up, and it sadly falls to Chris, who gets accompanied by Noah, who does some crazy moves to get the ball away once again. This time it falls to Chigiri. However, Chigiri can't advance any further as he is blocked by Corona, so he has no chance but to pass to AGI, who gets manhandled by Kaiser. And I don't know how Mansion City is so lucky, but the ball once again falls into their hands as Ryo is completely free in the box. Ryo says that even God decided to become his ally before shooting an outstanding shot. However, it's going to take a bit more than that to defeat Gagamaru, who uses his ultra-fast reflexes to save the ball. However, it was secretly a pass to Nagi, who traps the ball right in front of Gagamaru. And when all hope was lost, a hero came to the rescue, and who else would it be if not Isagi, who steals the ball from Nagi, who stole it from Gagamaru? A real tongue twister. Isagi has come to the conclusion that if he can analyze everyone's egocentrism, and then calculate where those egocentrisms intersect, he will be able to crush those miraculous goals. And then, in the end, he will be the main protagonist. Isagi looks for the best scoring option, but is quickly shocked as most of them are cut down by the Manshine City players. But just then, Korna came forward, telling Isagi to use him as they started their countless 1-2s with each other. Isagi knows that what he is lacking is the necessary physical ability to utilize Metavision at its full power, and if he can just level up his abilities a tiny bit, he will reach the next level. However, that's not possible right now, as he's too weak, and just then Ryo goes to block Isagi, telling him to just try to get past him. Isagi is quickly losing hope, but just then, he finds a new light. As the man himself, Noah tells him to go, and that he has decided to ally himself with Isagi. Isagi is shocked that Noah has decided to ally himself with him, but quickly goes back to reality, as Noah tells Isagi to get more creative and increase his options. This opens up a whole new world for Isagi, who is now seeing multiple options. Noah asks him if those options can be achieved realistically, and Isagi says that they can, and that he has no doubt about it. However, he tells Noah that he sees too many options, and that he can't pick the best one. Noah tells him to get rid of the unnecessary ones, and to think more logically. He asks Isagi what he desires more than anything right now, and Isagi coldly tells him that it's to destroy Kaiser. However, it's not only Noah who is here to help Isagi, as Corona also comes to join in on the fun. The three of them play with the Manshine City team as if they were a bunch of kindergartners, even handling Chris and Kaiser with no problem at all. Isagi says that this feeling of flow that he is experiencing is completely different. The mental state of being fully immersed in one's own actions, aka protagonism, is the key to activating flow. And with that, Isagi asks all of the protagonists in this game to come to him and be devoured. After that, we leave Isagi for a brief moment as we focus on Yukimiya. As he looks at Isagi from the sidelines, he is filled with envy that Isagi is even getting help from Noah himself, and wonders what it is that Isagi has that he doesn't. However, deep down, Yukimiya knows that what Isagi is saying is realistically correct, but if he wanted to think realistically, he would have given up a long time ago. Yukimiya's dream is to be the best football player. It's the only way he knows to live and is the sole reason that he is alive. Yukimiya doesn't care for Isagi anymore, as he will be the one to send him to hell. Following that, we see that Isagi is in a bit of a rush, as he only has 19 seconds left before Noah will be forced to switch out. However, he will make their last play with Noah worth it. As Isagi gets closer to his goal, we see Ego with his pretty little toes out, telling Isagi to show them how it ends. Back on the field, Isagi and Kaiser are going head to head, and just as Kaiser is about to steal the pass from Corona, Noah comes in his way. This makes Kaiser freeze for a second, and Isagi doesn't let it go to waste, as he slips behind Kaiser. However, the foe just keeps on coming, as Chigiri uses his incredible speed to catch up to Isagi. But ultimately, he catches the biggest L I have seen in a while, as Isagi takes him down with ease. After Chigiri lies Nagi, who gets hit with a fake shot from Isagi, who instead passes to Corona. Isagi is so close to scoring now, but just then, Yukimiya comes beside him with a really menacing look to him. Yukimiya thinks that he will hijack Corona's course with the help of his speed, but he quickly realizes that he has just played right into Isagi's hands. As Isagi gets behind him and tells him that he is the final piece to the puzzle, Corona gets ready to pass Isagi, and at that time, Yukimiya finally understands that there is no way for him to catch up to Isagi, as he says that Isagi will definitely become a player that will change the world, while his fantasy will fade into complete obscurity, forgotten forever. After that, we see that Chris has finally come to join the fight, as he tells Isagi that he wasn't good enough. However, Isagi is confident, as he says that Chris's opponent isn't him, but instead Noah. Noah manages to get the pass forward to Isagi, as he asks him if even the world's #1 is a pawn in his game. And here we have it. Isagi will finally score, is what I would like to say. But unfortunately, Kaiser comes in the way, and runs off Isagi's center point, making him unable to use a direct shot. However, Isagi tells him that it's perfect, and if Kaiser hadn't come, Isagi would have been the protagonist. But since he came, the one Isagi plunged into darkness will resurrect from the verge of death, as he passes the ball to Yukimiya. Before we can see what happens with Yukimiya, we see Isagi asking Kaiser if he was able to predict his last play, as he grabs onto Kaiser and asks him how it feels to be the clown in Isagi's story. Even Kaiser is scared, as he tells Isagi that he is nuts. After that, we finally get back to Yukimiya, who shoots a killer ball. And it's not just any shot either, as it's Yukimiya's specialty, the gyro shot. However, Ryo is also headed to the goal, and just as he is about to reach the ball, it drops down to the ground, evading Ryo's leg, but also bouncing up to the top of the net. With that, Yukimiya brings glory to Bastard Munchin as they finally win the game with a close 3-2 score. Both Yukimiya and Isagi are over the moon about their goal. After everyone has arrived, Yukimiya goes forward to Isagi, and they start a staring contest before Isagi tells Yukimiya that he is sorry. Yukimiya looks happily surprised as he tells Isagi that if he hadn't passed him, he would have been finished. Yukimiya also apologizes for the terrible things he said before, but Isagi tells him that he needed Yukimiya's strength in that last play. Isagi tells him that to beat Kaiser as a playmaker, he simply used Yukimiya as a tool, and that everything was going according to plan, except for the end. Because Isagi didn't expect Ryo to come in charging as he did, but despite that, Yukimiya managed to score a super goal, and Isagi tells him that was his win. Yukimiya asks Isagi how he managed to draw up that crazy last play. He also asks Isagi if he didn't draw it up so that Isagi could be the one to score the winning goal. Isagi tells him that he would have scored if Kaiser hadn't gotten in his way. Kaiser saw what Isagi was up to and efficiently moved to crush his goal. Isagi also says that right now, he can't beat Kaiser in a straight-up battle, and that's why he passed to Yukimiya his own trump card that only he had envisioned, and it was all to destroy Kaiser. And of course, to show the world that Isagi was the best player on the field by far, Yukimiya is shocked at Isagi's ability to think this far ahead, and he tells him that he is a real pain in the ass, and that he is far too clever for his own good. However, he admits that Isagi was without a doubt the man of the match. Isagi tells Yukimiya to keep on being that same bream-obsessed idiot that he has always been, and to not even dare become a player, which Isagi can simply manipulate. Yukimiya smiles and says that this twisted relationship suits them before giving each other a high five and saying to each other that they will devour each other until only one of them is left standing. Ness sees this and thinks to himself how disgusting this is before telling them that they are wrong and that a striker would never pass in that situation. He tells them that all this about destroying Kaiser is false and that Isagi just couldn't hack it, so he chickened out and went with an assistant. Isagi calls Ness Kaiser stupid lackey and tells him that he simply couldn't understand his last play and asks if he should dumb it down for him. Ness gets furious before Kaiser comes and shuts him down. Kaiser compliments Isagi and tells him that in the last play in that split second, Isagi saw further into the future than he managed to do, and tells him that this match is Isagi's win. However, he also tells him that this time he had Noah backing him up, and that the next time they fight, it will be without Noah backing either one of them up, and ends it with saying that they are both strikers, and to see which one of them scores the most goals. When he awaits Isagi's response, he can see Isagi falling to the ground. So he lets Ness go and catches Isagi by his hair. Yukimiya is in shock, and Noah asks Kaiser what's wrong, but Kaiser just tells him that he is overheated. Kaiser tells him that he has recklessly pushed past his limits and calls him the goddamn egoist, which sounds pretty cool. With that, Neo Egoist League Match 3 is finished. Isagi wakes up and sees Noah cooking up some tea as the waifu he is. Noah tells Isagi that he collapsed and had slept for 10 hours before offering him some water. After that, Noah asks Isagi if he were able to dethrone Kaiser, as he said he would. Isagi thinks back to the game and says that he was able to dethrone Kaiser for at least a moment. So naturally, Noah asks Isagi what's next. So Isagi chugs the precious water he got from his idol and tells him that he will defeat Kaiser with goals. And when Noah asks Isagi to verbalize how he plans to do that, Isagi says that he can see it and tells Noah that he learned to use his eyes and brain in the last game. Isagi tells Noah that he calls it metavision and explains it to him. He says that he takes shots of the entire field at once, using his peripheral vision, and then from a bird's eye view, he makes decisions and reads the flow of the game. However, that alone wasn't enough because Isagi realized that each person has their own protagonism, and if you can crush that, you can lower their level of performance. However, on the flip side, if you can link up with an ally's protagonism, you can create a chemical reaction. After that, Isagi apologizes for not having his thoughts organized yet. But Noah tells him that it's fine and says that he wants to know what Isagi is thinking, which brings a smile to Isagi's face as his idol has finally approved of him. Isagi says that now he has to train the skills he is missing and that he wants to score next time. However, here comes the interesting part because Noah says, "So that's why he chose you." This makes Isagi a bit confused before Noah tells Isagi that the way he thinks about football, Noah has heard it before from a teammate over 10 years ago. Noah's first ever rival and the worst kind of football fanatic, and now the creator of Blue Lock, Igo Jinpachi. And this is incredible, but Isagi is shocked that Noah knows him and asks him how they know each other. And Noah says that they were comrades in arms, and now that Noah is the best in the world, Igo is obsessed with the world's best. Anyway, after that, Noah just blue balls us and goes on telling Isagi that the next annual salary bidding auction was held while Isagi took his nap. However, I will only talk about the interesting ones. So first we see Karasu with 12 million yen, which is kind of a steal if we are being honest. And then we have my boy Nico at a steady 14th with 23.5 million yen. However, after that, we got Corona, and I am so happy to see him here. Anyway, we also have Aiku at 27 million yen, Gagamaru with 28, Yukimiya with 29, and Jigiri with 30. Noah says that those who played in matches, and of course those who scored, are highly rated, but also those who create many chances and dominate the midfield. As we can see here with Ryo at 40 million yen, and after him comes Kunigami with 47. However, forget everyone else because here comes our favorite poster boy, Isagi, in 4th place with a 50 million yen offer, which actually is the same as Ness has. Some comments Isagi got from social media were that the next generation Modric is here, and that the heart of Blue Lock is truly Isagi Yoichi. However, after Isagi comes Bachira, who got a 66 million offer. Bachira also scored a goal in the match between Italy and Spain, which was parallel to Isagi's match. Anyway, after Bachira comes to Nagi with an 88 million offer, which he definitely deserves. But now the one who scored a hat-trick in the Italy versus Spain match is none other than Baru, which is insane. Baru got a 100 million yen offer, and on top of that, he scored a hat-trick. After that, Noah casually tells Isagi that their next match is against the Ubers, and that match is gonna be insane. After that, we get to see that an interviewer has come to the Blue Lock. The interviewer's name is Nihei Shusaku, and if you think back to some of the first chapters of the series, you will remember that this is actually the guy who interviewed Itoshi-sai in the beginning. Anyway, Nihei asks this mysterious player, who really isn't that mysterious, how it feels to have garnered such praise and attention, after being awarded the Man of the Match award in the Bastard Munchen vs Manshine City match, and also receiving an offer of 50 million yen from Bastard Munchen. This player is also considered by many to be the eye of the storm in the new generation of footballers. And after that, we see the mysterious player. And would you look at that? It's Isagi Yoichi. Anyway, Isagi tells Nihei that he is very thrilled to think that an average high schooler like him would be given this golden opportunity to have his skills shown to the world. Isagi says that thanks to Blue Lock, his life has changed so much. Nihei thanks Isagi for his great answers, and then thinks that Isagi is a really nice kid, easy to work with, and totally different from Sei. Anyway, Nihei continues with the questions and asks Isagi about the offer from Bastard Munchen. He reads up on some comments that one of Bastard's scouts gave after the match. The scout said that he would like to pair up Isagi with Noah, and also says that Isagi is a new type of versatile midfielder who's skilled in both offense and defense. After that, Nihei asks Isagi how he feels about these comments. Isagi thinks for a bit and says that he is glad that a club like Bastard Munchen thinks so highly of him as a midfielder, but Isagi wants to survive in this world as a striker, denying the speculations of Isagi becoming a midfielder. However, Isagi doesn't stop there as he says that even if he can act as a creative outlet in the midfield, he wants to do so as a striker, because Isagi wants to win by scoring goals. Call it egotistical, but this is something that Isagi will not yield to anyone. Niehi thanks Isagi for his straightforward answer, and thinks that an egotistical mindset that aims to devour everything that he desires, and says that this is really the football philosophy of a Blue Lock player. Anyway, after that, Niehi thanks Isagi for their interview and tells him that he can't wait to see what kind of player he becomes. Right as Isagi leaves the room, he is greeted by both Kurona and Igarashi, who have both been eavesdropping on him. Anyway, both of them tell Isagi that his interview was super lit, and that he and Nagi are trending like crazy on social media. While they are standing and talking, Raichi comes out of the shower, kind of making fun of Isagi, and also making fun of Igarashi and Kurona. But let me just say this, I am fine with people slandering Igarashi and even Isagi, but when it comes to Kurona, it's strictly forbidden. Because just look at him, he is even doing his infamous shark pose. So yeah, I have big problems with Raichi from this point on. Anyway, after that, Raichi is about to just casually walk, so Igarashi stops him, asks him what's wrong with praising someone who did something incredible, and tells Raichi to stop being so goddamn stubborn. Raichi waits up and says that right now, he is the honest person in the world, and tells them that he is really frustrated. Isagi is a bit shocked before Raichi continues, and says that the weakling that was with him on Team Z is now one of the most prized young footballers in the world. He tells Isagi to watch as he drags him down and takes the #1 spot. And Isagi is just his regular happy self, and tells Raichi that he can't wait for it. Anyway, after that, Igarashi also bounces, as he says that he has some trading to do, and runs off saying that he will become a superstar. Isagi turns to Kurona, and asks him what Yukimiya has been up to. Kurona asks him if he hasn't heard, and asks him to follow him. After that, we see both Yukimiya and Chris doing a photo shot, where it looks like they are doing a commercial for a pair of sunglasses, as they are heavily promoting them, which just looks fun for some reason. Chris tells Yukimiya that he is really good at this, and says that firstly, it was only going to be him in the commercial, but after watching Yukimiya play, Chris personally asked them to cast them together. Yukimiya thanks him, and says that it's an honor working with him. However, Chris tells him that it's fine and starts complimenting Yukimiya's insane goal against Manshine City. Chris also says that in addition to being a good player, you need to be popular too, and says that not to brag, but that he can work with anyone when it comes to this, which is essentially just bragging, but whatever. However, Yukimiya asks Chris if he was the right choice, and asks if it wouldn't have been better with Isagi. He did become the man of the match after all. But that awakes Chris's inner demon, as he says that he will never forgive him for ruining his moment to show the world that he is the #1 player in the world and not Noah. Anyway, it's fine, because after Chris is done, he says that he isn't mad or anything, so we have to trust his words, right? After that, Chris tells Yukimiya to see each other at the next World Cup, and asks Yukimiya to tell Isagi to be there as well. When they are done, Henri comes and tells Yukimiya that Ego wants to see him alone. Yukimiya enters Ego's room, and Ego starts telling him that when you overwork yourself, black spots appear, and once your vision becomes blurry, sadly there's no current way to cure that, only one way to slow down its progression, and the sickness is called optic neuropathy. Ego turns around to Yukimiya and asks him how long he was planning to hide it from him. Yukimiya is shocked and right away apologizes. He tells Ego that he didn't tell him because he doesn't want anyone to feel sorry for him. The Ego understands and tells Yukimiya to speak freely, as he isn't recording his conversation. Ego also says that he isn't some vulgar trash who would release people's private information to others. Yukimiya once again apologizes for not telling Ego, however Ego says that he already knew about Yukimiya's condition, and that he always runs a background check before you enter Blue Lock. Ego just didn't see any point in bringing it up until now, and with that, Ego goes into the real matter at hand. He tells Yukimiya that he has already sent all of his medical data to the club that sent him the offer, and says that it's only natural for him to have a pro contract. And that's to be expected when clubs offer this huge sum of money. It's only right that we report any injuries or illnesses. Yukimiya is quiet, but Ego continues. He reads up what the club responded with. The club said this: "We would like to help Yukimiya with his treatment. We will pay for the entire treatment. That's how much they value his talents. So please play for us." This heavily shocks Yukimiya, but he still stays quiet, so Ego talks some more. Ego says that it's still uncertain whether Yukimiya's eyes will fully heal, but that the club is willing to do anything it can to support him. Ego even says that offers like this don't come very often, and asks Yukimiya if he is going to accept their offer. Yukimiya tells Ego that he can tell them to wait while he makes his final decision, even though he is very thankful to Ajax for making such an offer, and that he normally would have accepted it without any hesitation. However, Yukimiya doesn't feel like he deserves this offer, because he was only able to shine with Isagi's help. And if Yukimiya decides to accept this offer now, then he feels that this is as far as his ego is going to grow. And that's why he would like them to wait until the Neo-Egoist League is over before deciding how valuable Yukimiya is to them. Ego says that he understands. However, he tells Yukimiya that there's no guarantee that this offer will still be standing here waiting for him. And Yukimiya says that he understands, that he will no longer ask God for miracles, and that he will now change his destiny with his own hands. After that, we get a single panel of Hiyori, who sits on the ground and says that football is tiring. After that, we get to see a big picture of baby Hiroi and his two parents. His dad was a silver medalist at the All Japan Judo Championships, while his mother was ranked second in Japan in the high jump. With their parents having tasted the bitter feeling of always finishing second, they made it their mission to make their child a champion, and that became his destiny as soon as he was born. From a young age, Hiroi's parents pushed for him to become the best, with his mother taking care of his health and making sure that he ate right, to his father pushing him onto more training and studying tactics. Everything they did was for Hiroi to become the #1 in football, the most popular sport in the world. His parents even put him in an intense elite training program, and the only thing they talked about was how he had gotten better and how he could become the best. But in reality, Hiroi wanted to spend more time with his friends. But with his parents' big smiles, he couldn't say no, so he made sure to always make them happy, and so he continued to play football. Hiroi thought that his parents loved him, but that all changed one night when he woke up to his parents screaming. His dad is yelling at his mom that his numbers aren't high enough and that it's her job to take care of his diet. His mom tries to define it and says that it might be his teaching methods that are the problem. This makes Hirois' dad furious, and he says that at the rate Hirois is developing, he won't become a pro. After that, Hiyori's mom wonders why she even married him in the first place, as he is a total asshole. To end it, they said that they had entrusted Hiroi to fulfill their dreams, and that if Hiroi can't become the #1 in the world, then they want a divorce. This shocks Hiroi, who suddenly loses his balance and falls down the stairs. His parents rush to his aid right away. When they come to Hiroi, he asks them if it's his fault that they are getting a divorce. But they just ignore that and ask Hiroi if his foot is broken and call an ambulance just to be sure. However, they aren't doing this out of love. They are just doing this to make sure that their dreams don't die. And Hiroi notices that as he says that his parents aren't even looking at him, his parents don't care about him. They only care about his talent. But despite everything, Hiroi kept on playing football even though his parents didn't love him, because as long as he kept on playing football, his family would stay together. And then one day, he will become the world's #1 striker, but he still wonders what his true purpose is in life. Because after all, Hiroi chose to live his life according to a character description, and his life became easier as a result. After that, we fast forward to after a training session, where Karasu Tobito, who was playing along with Hiroi, comes up to him and calls him remarkable. Hiroi thanks him, and Karasu introduces himself. He says that he is 1 year older, but he still plays for Bambi Osaka Youth. After that, Karasu even tells Hiyori that he is a genius and that Hiyori is born with impressive physical ability and superb ball control, combined with a high football IQ, and not to mention Hiroi's left leg, which Karasu calls erotic as hell. And dude, I completely agree with Karasu. However, in the final third, Hirois' passion in front of the goal is just average, and Karasu says that it's as if his mind and body aren't in sync. And Karasu asks Hiroi if he truly loves football. Hiroi tells him that he is right, calls Karasu amazing, and says that it's really obvious to some people. However, Karasu quickly says that in Hirois' state, he doesn't stand a chance against him. But Hiroi hits Karasu with another question, and asks him if he likes to have huge expectations forced on him. Karasu is confused, and Hiroi tells him that all his life, Hiroi's parents have just forced their expectations on him, and says that that's probably why he doesn't truly love football. However, when Hiroi is done, Karasu just says it's boring, and tells him to just think about it later. And to start with yourself, and to believe in yourself, he tells Hiroi to find something that truly gets his blood pumping. Hiroi stands still, and wonders what he is supposed to believe in. Besides, he doesn't even want to play football, and if his parents weren't around, what would he really be doing with his life? Hiroi just doesn't get it, and when his parents come to him to show his invitation to Blue Lock, he thinks that he would like them to stop and calls them disgusting, and kind of envisions them fading away while he says not to heap expectations on him ever again. And when the day comes for Hiyori to go to Blue Lock, his parents are excited and tell him that they are routing for him. But for Hiroi, the blue lock is just a place to escape, as he says that he never wants to live in that house again. After that, we get back into real time, where Isagi comes to Hiroi and asks him to help him practice, and Hiroi agrees. After that, we get into a steaming hot bathtub scene with Ryo and Nagi. Ryo is ecstatic over being worth 40 million yen and asks Nagi how he feels about being worth a stunning 88 million yen. Nagi tells him that it's unreal, but asks Ryo why he's so giddy when they lost their last match. However, Ryo tells him that it's because Nagi is blowing up on every social media thanks to his incredible goal. But Nagi just says that it's kinda lit, which is such a Nagi response. After the bath, they sit down, and Nagi tells Ryo that he honestly can't picture himself becoming the world's best striker. All this time, he's been playing to beat Isagi, and when he finally did it, it felt like a dream. And because of that, he feels like it would be impossible for him to aim to become the world's #1, as he isn't really a motivated guy to begin with. Ryo tells Nagi that it's probably because the challenge of becoming the world's #1 is too far away, which makes Nagi lose motivation. But then Ryo remembers that Nagi had said that he just wanted to play video games all day and not work, and because of that, their new goal should be to earn 300 million, as the average lifetime earnings of a Japanese male is around 300 million, and that's why they are gonna go wild in the Neo-Egoist League and raise Nagi's value to 300 million. Then Ryo gets a possessed look at him and goes on a little rant about capitalist men. When he's done with his rant, he asks Nagi if 300 million is a good goal. Nagi says that it seems doable, but he also says that all of this reminds him about the first time he asked Nagi to play football. Nagi had no idea that he would become so passionate about something and thanked Ryo for introducing him to football. Ryo can't believe what it is that he heard coming out of Nagi's mouth and quickly asks if he's okay. However, Nagi ensures him that he's okay. But Nagi's speech motivated Ryo, who now says that it means that they aren't done yet and that they should aim toward winning the World Cup and becoming the world's #1. After that, we move over to the bastard Munchin side, where Kaiser is going over the last goal. Ness comes forward and says that he admires his hard work, but that he should at least use his blue light glasses. Kaiser thanks him before telling Ness that he's always managed to crush all of the clueless rookies, second-rate veterans, fading superstars, and you could even say that Kaiser is his happiest when he's crushing other people's lives. But even so, it's something about Isagi that he can't seem to beat, and even says that in the last game, Isagi definitely surpassed his expectations. Ness tries to defend Kaiser right off the bat, saying that Isagi gave up on trying to score, and therefore Kaiser is better than him. Kaiser then splashes his drink on Ness and says that he already knows all of that, but why is it that Isagi still dares to defy him? Kaiser showed Isagi their vast difference in strength and broke him multiple times. But even with all that, Isagi keeps getting back up like a zombie. It's as if the more obstacles that are in his path, the more excited he gets, and he even manages to clear all of his obstacles by the skin of his teeth. Ness goes back to his rat ways and says that it doesn't change anything and that Kaiser is still superior. However, Kaiser ignores Ness's slick talk and asks him why he chose to come to Blue Lock. Ness tells him that he's here to either prove he's Noah's equal when playing alongside him, or use the Neo-Egoist League auction system to win an even bigger offer and then use it to force his way out of battle.
Thanks for watching our video. We will show you the rest in our next video.